Alright, this is our next unit, first set of notes that we're going to have on the age of oil in the Progressive Era in Texas. There's going to be 3 sets of notes total for this unit. So it's a really short one, but it's very important as far as our class goes and as far as Texas history goes as a whole. The first event that we're going to have you write about or talk about is the Great Galveston Hurricane. It was a hurricane in 1900. It was unnamed. There's no name like Hurricane Katrina or anything like that. It was just a storm that hit in September of 1900. It wiped out a majority of the city. Many people did not know the storm was coming towards Galveston until it hit. Basically, they knew there was a storm, but they didn't know how big it was, and they did not know how deadly it was going to be. So the storm really surprised the people. And for those of you who've been to Galveston, you know it's an island, and so for them at this time, for them to escape it, would have to sail on a boat, and it was just too late for them to get away. Overall, 6 to 8 thousand people died. It's kind of hard to tell because a lot of people just were families were completely wiped out, and nobody ever knew to claim that a family member had passed away. And what it did is it really changed the way Galveston is now. One of the results is they developed a seawall. And the seawall, as you see in that picture in the top right corner, uh, will help prevent future storms from flooding the city by raising the elevation of the city by a total of 13 feet. That doesn't sound like much, but when you're raising basically the entire city by about 13 to 20 feet, that's going to make a huge difference. It's going to make it harder for flooding and for the waves to be able to reach in and to overtake the area. So it was a really important change to happen inside of Galveston. Uh, by doing this, also, it made it a little bit safer for the city, and so more people are going to come in there to start setting up industries and businesses. The next event that we really need to do is the one called Spindletop, which happened in Texas in 1901. So about a year later, oil had been discovered in small amounts in East Texas, but not really been found in large quantities like we see today. It was discovered south of Beaumont by some wildcatters, which are people that begin drilling for oil with very little evidence of oil being there. It's kind of like they get a gut feeling, I think there's oil right there, and they'll start drilling. If they're lucky, it'll start shooting up, kind of like in that video we watched on Friday. Or if they're not lucky, then it just kind of nothing happens, and they've lost a lot of money and a lot of other people's money who helped invest. People began moving to Texas by the thousands and caused an oil boom in Texas, kind of what we were talking about the other day, boom and bust. The rapid urbanization was difficult for Texas to keep up with as thousands and thousands of people move in and try to set up shop, workers and refineries, everything trying to happen all at one time. It made it very, very difficult for the people in the area of Spindletop and then Beaumont and then eventually in Houston to keep up. Once they were able to catch up, it made a lot of our distribution patterns that we see today as far as population. Issues that the oil boom caused. Now that it was being produced, how is it going to be refined? Just because you get a lot of oil doesn't mean you can turn it into gasoline or to usable oil to, at this time, burn candles and everything else like that. So you had to find a way to fix it. It increased the amount of roads and railroads that would allow for the oil to be sent along and be refined and made into gasoline. So they basically increased the infrastructure tremendously. And in development of the Houston Ship Channel, which completed in 1914, which connected Houston to the Gulf of Mexico. If you go there today, you can still see it on the south side of Houston, and it's still heavily used. It's huge amounts of oil, especially for the oil industry and industry, are using this ship channel still today to go through and to make sure that everything is taken care of and that the industry stays strong. Now, on this, what we're looking at is just what allowed us over time to be able to help continue to look for oil. First invention that we have developed by Howard Hughes Sr. was the rotary drill bits. It penetrates medium and hard rock with 10 times the speed of any former bit and allowed deeper drilling on land and in ocean. So that really started the boom with us being able to dig deeper and deeper, we might get to just a small area and the oil dry out and people would move on. Well, now that you can dig deeper into stronger rock, it made a huge important change because now everybody could go through there and find more valuable oil. Directional drilling, drilling that can occur at depths of the ocean, is going to come in at an angle. Uh, and once they started being able to dig for oil out in the ocean, it really is going to help the oil industry in America take off. Then deep sea drilling even further out, and you can see those on those oil platforms today. And now they're able to really dig in everywhere in the ocean. And then hydraulic fracturing, which is big time today. This is how a lot of people are doing this here, especially in Texas and West Texas. And it's a method of oil drilling where highly pressurized liquid combinations, including salt and other chemicals, are used to break up rock and gain access to oil. It possibly causes contamination of groundwater and increased seismic activity. If you've been watching the news recently, there's been a lot of earthquakes in the Snyder area, and that's because of the fracturing. It really does. It doesn't possibly cause contamination. It really does contaminate the water because huge amounts of chemicals are going in there. So it's not the best environmentally friendly way of getting for oil, but people are still doing it, and it's making people money. So they're not really going to complain about it until all the oil is gone. So that's all we had for our notes. What I need you to do is now start working on those documents that I gave you at the beginning of class.